Hey, everybody, welcome to Danny's Diary, a podcast powered by Singing News Magazine. My guest today is Michael Booth, and we caught Michael at the grocery store. We are watching Michael Booth in action. And Michael, how are things going for you these days?
Oh, you know what? I'm just trying to be a blessing to Vicky because she's getting all this extra time with me, and I'm getting the sense that she's overwhelmingly happy about it. Maybe, kind of depends on how you view it. You know.
Okay, I've known you now for at least 20, 25 years. I met you and Vicky not long after you married, so I know Vicky. She's ready for you to leave the house, isn't she?
Well, I kind of got a feeling when I walked out. It had been about 3 or 4 weeks, and I walked out, and my suitcase was out there with the bus key sitting on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, that's how sweet of her to go ahead and how optimistic I thought of her to go ahead and pack my bags in case we could leave.
He's always been very thoughtful that way.
Yeah, that was my interpretation.
Okay. Well, now that we've got through all of that bit of fiction, let's talk about some of the brighter, funnier things that have taken place in the last few weeks. And of course, we all know gospel music, just like the rest of the world, is in the middle of a pandemic, and it has turned everyone upside down. But even the Booth brothers have found a way to take a situation and find some laughter in that. For example, one of the running jokes in gospel music right now is, well, the good thing about this is the bus hasn't broken down in 6 weeks.
Oh.
Booth brothers can't say that.
Au contraire.
Why don't you just go ahead and share that story with everyone right now?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing about a tour bus. Engines of that size, they don't do well when they don't run. The belts and the hoses, all the clamps and everything they can get loose when they sit for long periods of time. And so therefore the thing to do is to run them, or at least drive them down the road, or at least run the engine on high idle, so the RPMs are high and the compression, all that stuff, and it just keeps everything functioning well. So there are 2 or 3 of us that do such a task from time to time. and one person whom I'll not mention, when they turned the key off, they turned it too far to the left, therefore keeping the electricity on, if you will, and it ran the battery dry. So the bus is broke down, sitting in the same spot it's been in for however many weeks now, and we're going to have to hire a big truck to come out here with a big enough battery and jump it for us. So we that way we can start it back up and let it sit where it's been sitting.
And so my next episode of Danny's Diary will be something along the lines of maintaining your bus the Booth brothers way.
Yeah. You don't want to, things you should not do.
Yeah. Exactly. So what has occupied your time during the past few weeks? Both, as a group, I know the Booth brothers, really, you guys never have any downtime. If you're not on the road, you're in the studio doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie has several interests that he's involved in. Paul Lancaster has many things that he's involved in. So bring us up to speed on what has occupied your time lately.
Well, the first couple of weeks, to be honest, it was kind of a mental thing that I felt like you could give yourself permission to actually take a break, because there was nothing we could do about rescheduling the concerts and what have you. And at that time, we actually didn't have any recording sessions going on. So it was nice, Danny, actually, for a few days to feel like you could literally give yourself permission to relax. And I did that. I kind of vegged around for a few days, but that only lasts so long, and then you start kind of going a little crazy. So I, did some honeydew stuff around the house, probably not as much as I think I did, but what it felt like I did, I thought I accomplished a lot. And then, as we saw this thing dragging out and the little bit of uncertainty of what the future is going to be, which we can talk about that, we started formulating a plan to, and I can't say a whole lot right now, I'm really sorry, but we're trying to develop a platform that we can stay in contact with people more often and give. You can't replace the live performance. You can't replace that. And we don't need to, because that's eventually going to come back. But in the meantime, and even after, we want to be able to stay in touch with people and give them, become more of a part of their lives, put it that way. And I think it'll be a win-win for them and for us.
Well, Southern gospel music has been built around the live performance for so
Yeah.
long. And there's no, even the best video production, best audio production that we can manufacture through computers and things of that nature only goes so far. And there's just something important about that live element that you can't replace, even though, as you and I have said many times, we are looking at the early days of a new normal.
Mm,
The problem
yeah.
with that is none of us know what the new normal is really going to be. So when you look ahead for the next few weeks, next few months, is there in your mind a timetable when there is a possibility live events on whatever scale they may be, very small or typical?
Mm-hmm.
What's in the back of your mind as far as those days opening up?
Well, I think you asked the question the right way and qualifying it by saying at what level. It may be. I will say this, and I don't want anybody to take this. This is not a negative connotation. It's just things are different and things are going to be different. It's like post 9/11. Some things never return to be the same. But listen, through the Christian's view, all things work together for good for those who love the Lord and call. Okay, so we're his children. God doesn't say oops, and he takes difficult situations and he does not waste them. He turns them for good. All things work together for good. So I believe God is going to give us wisdom and the ability to take a difficult situation and come out with new and fresh ideas to stay attached to people's life, maybe become more attached to their lives, to have more influence and more impact for the kingdom. And I think it will be good for the people, and I think it will be good for the singers and musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very optimistic. When we're going to get together live again, I think that depends on the state. We all see governors reacting differently, so the state can vary from one to another. And then it will go to the venue itself. How many people are they going to allow into any particular venue, a spacing, if you will. And then it depends on the demographic, how comfortable seniors might feel as to going out. I think eventually everybody's going to be very comfortable and very comfortable to go out. It's just a matter of when. So I'm optimistic that it's going to be, it may be a tortoise thing, it may be slow, but I think we're going to get right back into a fantastic groove, being live and also via the internet.
Given any thought to what might be the very first song you sing when the Booth Brothers return to touring?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me think. Oh, that's a good one.
I just don't see you coming back with the typical opening song. I've known you long enough to know
Yeah.
that there's just enough mischievous kid in you that first song will be memorable.
Who am I? I messed up and thought you were on the spiritual realm of what you thought I might do. I should have known better.
Exactly.
You know what? You've given me something wonderful to think about. I will do that. I don't know, but I will do it. And I'll text you and let you know what it's going to be.
Okay, well, not only you can't just text me. You have to make sure that someone videos that so that we can share it with everybody. That This is what Michael Booth, 10-time tenor of the year, of the Booth Brothers, all those years you won favorite artist and favorite trio and all that. This was the first song he chose to come back.
I think
it could be a memorable moment.
I think I've got it.
Okay.
Because nobody's been able to go get a haircut.
Now wait a minute. Let's don't talk about hair. Okay. Look very carefully where I'm pointing. Look who's
I know, right?
okay. This is my
What if,
program. Be careful.
what if we open with, if your hair's too long, there's sin in your heart? Oh, that blessed me. I like that.
And that's why we're friends.
Woo!
So, all right. So that may not have been the smartest question I've ever asked you. So we'll leave that one alone. And you know what I'll do? I'll call Ronnie and I'll get him to pick us up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, I got to ask this question. The very first place when all of the restrictions are lifted and you can walk out of your home, get in your car, and you can go anywhere you want to, do anything you want to, what's the very first thing you're going to do?
I'm going to go in Columbia, Tennessee, where I live. I'm going to go to DB's Pizza Parlor.
Okay.
Danny, I'm telling you, next time you're close, I know you go to Nashville sometimes. You're about 50 miles away from where I live, from where the office is for the Singing News. It'll be worth it. You come down, I'll take you to DB's, and I'll pay for my half, and it's going to be fantastic.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're willing to pay for half
Yeah.
of it. Usually it doesn't go that way. It's usually all me.
Have you counted how many times I forgot my wallet when you and I have gone to eat?
The times have been so many that I'm convinced you don't own a wallet.
Actually, you know what? I quit carrying one.
Oh, really?
I do. I just carry a few cards, and Vicki gives me $5 a week in cash to carry, and so I wrap my cards in that $5 bill, and that's what I carry. or not.
Yeah. Okay. There are very few times Michael Booth leaves me speechless, but this is one of them. So I don't know what it is. All right, now all kidding aside, this pandemic has really wreaked havoc on a lot of things. And you and I were talking a few days ago about the people that the fans don't see and how much they've been affected. And I'm talking about people like the booking agents, the concert promoters, the church pastors. This Southern gospel music has gotten shut down, but it's more than just the singers and the musicians. It's a lot of people. For example, let's use Ed Harper and Becky Simmons, Michael Davis, all those folks who are booking agents. Yeah. They were the ones who caught the brunt of this when everything happened. And I know you personally, your long history with Ed Harper, you saw how it affected him personally.
Yeah. And I'll say this about all those people. They were on the front line. That I can't remember the date, but that Monday morning, I think it was a Monday. If I'm wrong, just forgive me. But anyway, a large percentage of the following 90 days were being canceled and or rescheduled. And Michael and Becky and Ed Harper, Jeff Harper, they were the first ones to just, it was overwhelming, unprecedented. There is no playbook for how this is going to work. So they have done an incredible job, very patient, but all of those people are really sharp people. And I'm grateful for the position they're in. They're handling it very well. And I will say this, Ed, I've been in contact with Ed Harper a lot, and he has really, really been bragging on the promoters in the churches and their tenacity to make sure that these concerts get rescheduled. And let me say this, every time you reschedule one, you just change the promotional budget. So for some of these promoters, it keeps costing them every time it changes. Now I know a lot is done via internet, but even at that, you're affecting their time. The phone calls are endless with patrons calling them and dealing with tickets and such. So I just want to say on behalf of all the groups and all the booking agents to the promoters and churches, my goodness, thank you for your willingness, and I'll use the word again, your tenacity to make sure that this music will have a stage to be performed on as soon as we can get back.
Yeah. The good thing that is beginning to build is once everything returns or opens up a little bit, Southern gospel music artists have the very distinct possibility of having one of the busiest falls and winter travels that
Yeah,
they've ever had.
yeah,
And I know you were talking about, you looked the other day, if everything materializes in say October, November, December, it's 3 months of blur, just going as hard as you can, and that's great.
yeah,
We'll all do
yeah.
that. So what's one thing you've really missed during all this time? You know, is there something about the traveling that you've missed? I know you missed talking and spending time with the fans, but what's something
Yeah.
that Michael Booth on a personal level has really missed during this time?
I think I think in my heart of hearts, I miss communicating with an audience. I really I love singing. I love blending and being in a group, but I, I don't want to say it's my favorite thing, but one thing I do miss is the process of communicating with an audience and taking, especially with the gospel,
Hmm.
taking an eternal truth that God can use you to speak into someone's heart, and that truth, that God's word does not return void, and therefore it becomes applicable to someone's life. That is exceptional. Um, that is exceptional. What's the word? Significance.
Hmm.
And so that's a big thing when you're used to having that privilege and responsibility, and then you're not able to do that as often as you were, and especially live. These things are great, and I'm grateful for them. But there's something beautiful about being in a live audience under the Spirit of God moving and dealing with people and using us. There's nothing else like it.
Yeah. There's a certain energy, a certain presence, all of that you just can't get anywhere but a live performance. So I'm going to go back to my question a few moments ago. What's the first song? Are you still stuck on the hair song?
If your hair's too long, there's sin in your heart. Sing it, Danny.
No,
Get it
that's all
cut
right. Go ahead.
today.
Anyway, hey, I do want to commend you, by the way. Uh,
Yeah.
you are showing safe driving practices by keeping your seatbelt on while you have been stationary in the parking lot. I'm very proud of you.
Yes. Our fine men and women in blue around here are very effective at keeping the law of not, and it's a good law. I applaud them for it, for making law and holding. But yeah, you're not supposed to do anything with your phone when you're in drive. So I'm parked here. I'm fixing to go into Kroger here, or as people in the South call it, Kroger's. We put an S on everything. I'm going to go into Kroger's, and I'm going to get some uh, sugar-free popsicles, some peanuts and stuff like that, because I'm gaining weight. My clothes are cut so tight that I wear on stage. I can tell I'm gaining weight because I'm sitting around more than I've ever sat around before. So I gotta exercise more and back off some of the really good food.
Hmm.
So,
So, in other words, you're also saying that you're not as young as you used to be.
oh, Vicki and I were talking about that this morning. It's really painful to get older. It, it hurts just in random places. And let me ask you this: why all of a sudden there's hair in your nose? Where'd that come from? And then it's coming out of your ears. Like, I gotta shave my ears around the earlobes now. When I shave, I gotta go. Who saw that coming? Right? Well, I didn't see it now I do because I have glasses.
You know, there is no telling what you're going to talk about when you're talking with Michael Booth. Whoever dreamed that we would be talking about nose hair on Dan's
I'm just saying, it's the older you get that you just do different things in life.
All right, I got to ask, how old are you now? Be honest.
I'm 48.
48. You're almost 50. Wow.
No, I'm 48.
Now you're almost 50, Michael.
Yeah,
Well, that's all right. We've known each other most of our adult lives.
we have. We
Yep.
have.
And I would like to say that my life has been greatly enriched by that, but I'm not sure that it has.
Do you remember the first time we met? Do you remember where it
Yes,
was?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. See if you're
You,
right, because I remember.
yeah, because we were at the National Quartet Convention
Uh-huh.
in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was walking by the Booth Brothers booth. Well, no,
That's
wait a
it.
minute. wait a minute. I really shouldn't say the Booth Brothers booth. It was more of I was walking by the Booth Brothers table.
Location. That's
Okay,
about all it
yeah,
was.
that's the location. That's right. And you started talking, and almost 30 years later, you've not shut up since.
Yeah. Well, if you remember what I said, I was like, "Hey, man, I loved your performance on MASH."
Yeah, you did. Yep. And that's okay. That's okay.
Okay. Okay, that hurt.
Right.
No, I remember you had written an article, and I wish I could remember the article, and I bet we could find it if we backtrack from 1995 Quartet Convention, 2 or 3 months, we could find it. But it was something, honestly, it spoke to me. And you talk about aspiring artists, if you want to use that word. Oh man, was I excited about gospel music, being a part of it. It was overwhelming and wonderful. I loved everything about it. And something you wrote spoke to me. And then when I mentioned it, man, you just started talking to me like I was as important as anybody else. And again, man, we're in there with stars in our eyes. This place is huge. Every Gold City and the Kingsman cathedrals, everybody's there. And when you're the new artist coming in, it can be overwhelming and you can be a little timid. But I think you and I walked down to the food court and kept talking.
Right. And
And
and I
so,
had to pay there too.
yeah, you probably,
I know I did.
I'm sure you did. I was broke.
And that was when the ice cream cones at the National Quartet Convention were not as expensive as they were the last year we were in Louisville.
Yeah.
And you ordered two, by the way, just so you
Yeah.
know.
Because I could eat them back then.
Well, you took
Yeah.
one back to Ronnie. You were being
Yeah.
nice. Hey, one thing about that, even all these years later, we're both still excited about this music and
Yep.
still thrilled to be a part of it. Even though we both have days when okay, there's got to be something else. But neither one of us would be happy doing anything other than what we're doing now. So now that you're almost 50, what do you want to do when you retire? When you say, you know what, I'm done, I'm going to stay home now. What is your dream to be doing during retirement?
Well, I'm going to qualify this by saying I don't ever see, I say this now at 48, who knows,
Almost 50.
You're going to make me a t-shirt with that, aren't you?
It's already.
I don't ever see not being a part of gospel music, because you can't not be something you're made to be, if you will, or equipped to be.
Right.
So to whatever degree I'm capable of singing and being effective, I hope I'm smart enough to where if I can't haul the mail anymore, I won't prove to people that I can't, but at the same time, maybe I still love it, and maybe people are still willing to put up with me, and we both agree that it's acceptable. So we'll keep singing, but there's two things I want to play. I've always wanted to be a part of a church softball team. I've really never had time to do that. I would love to do that, and I would like to play golf. I haven't. I love golf. I just haven't done it, Danny, because as you know, we're all gone so much, and I'm just speaking for me in my home, because I know some guys play golf, and this is not saying they shouldn't do it. But for me, I couldn't come home and go, "Hey, honey, I'll be back in 6 hours." So I couldn't enjoy the game and do that. So at some point, I'd like to be able to play golf and play in a church softball team.
Well, we'll check in a few years and see if you're doing that.
Yeah.
And, so, hey, before we sign off, anything else Michael Booth wants to say today?
No, I just want to, people, thanks for hanging on. And I'm proud of the body of Christ. I'm proud of the church. I'm proud of gospel music. I'm privileged to be in a textbook thread, if you will, of basically all the managers in gospel music. And talking Karen Peck and Ernie Haas and Mark Trammell, Scott Fowler, all these guys. Most every manager's in there. And let me just tell you guys, you would be so proud of how encouraging everybody is to one another, how optimistic and secure they are in God's sovereignty and God's provision. How when someone gets good news and they share it on that thread, it's beautiful to watch the response from all the other managers cheering on and being happy for that particular group. If they, for example, there have been some really kind people that have written checks to some groups and given them some help. And things like that we all share with each other. And it's the sweet part is how everybody's happy for the other person, and then therefore also being encouraging when someone says, hey, I got a burden and it's this. It's a brotherhood, it's a family. And I'll wrap it up by saying this: when you people have been sitting on the stage and seeing us sing together, I'm sure some of you have wondered, are they getting along as good as it looks like? Yes, we certainly were at the time. And I can just tell you it's grown 100-fold since then. So you would be very pleased.
And that's the perfect way to leave this episode of Danny's Diary. Thanks for tuning in. Michael Booth, we appreciate you spending part of your afternoon with us. Continue those safe driving practices. We'll all appreciate that. And that's it. Have a great day.
If your hair's too long, there's sin in your heart.
Oh, boy.